medicine is. And that's the instrument I used for analyzing cannabis. It's called a high-pressure liquid chromatography, or high-price liquid chromatography. If you're buying it. That instrument costs $100,000 new. You can get a good used one for about $30,000. But nevertheless, it's high-tech instrumentation that allows us to quantify and identify different cannabinoids. We normally look at the three most abundant cannabinoids present in BC bud, if you like, which is THC, CBD, and CBN. CBD stands for cannabidiol, CBN for cannabinol. These two cannabinoids in the presence of THC will alter the effect of the cannabis. The more CBD in the prep, the more sedation you'll get. The more CBN, the more stimulatory, the more sativa-like effect. This is a show-off slide, but it shows how we detect the cannabinoids with this instrument. That's UV absorption of the different cannabinoids. The one on the far right is tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, or when you burn that, that turns into THC. You can see it's by far the most abundant of those peaks. The one next to it on the left is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, and the next one on the left is cannabidiol. But the point of this slide is to give you the difference in abundance of the different cannabinoids, the THC acid being by far the most abundant cannabinoid. Now, in the early 1990s, a fellow named Raphael Mershulam at the Hebrew University in Israel discovered the THC receptor. I remember when that happened, I was working in a contract lab in Burnaby, and geez, there's actually a receptor for that stuff. Wow. And that has started an absolute explosion in research on what they call the endocannabinoid system. Your body makes its own THC. It's called anandamide, or 2-AG. Those molecules are made by your body to bind the receptor, the THC receptor. The fact that THC from the cannabis plant binds that receptor is just a fluke. No reaction. No evolutionists here. I was reading the other day that they found endocannabinoid receptors in a sea animal called the sea squirt. This is a very primitive animal. It's been on the planet much longer than us and most other animals, but it has a nervous system. And in this nervous system, they found endocannabinoid receptors and endocannabinoids. That means that these chemical messengers we call endocannabinoids have been around for a very long time on the planet. And THC binding that receptor has a whole lot of effects, and it ain't simple. We are much more highly evolved than the sea squirt. We are the most complex, highly organized biological systems on this planet. Our nervous systems are enormously complex. The most abundant receptor binding site in our complex nervous system is the THC receptor, as it turns out. It's definitely the most common G protein binding site, which is a type of receptor. It may not be as common as the glutamate binding site, but its ubiquitous abundance makes it an extremely important receptor. And I will generalize in saying its overall effect is when the THC binds the receptor, it's to slow down neurotransmission from that nerve cell. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that are shot out the end of nerve cells so they can talk to each other. They go across the synapse. When the THC binds the receptor, it does it on the shooting end of the nerve synapse, the side that shoots the transmitters out of this side. It slows down that transmission. So you're not getting near as much firing across the nerve junction before THC binds the receptor. that causes a general slowdown in neurotransmission. Now, backing down GABA will increase dopamine. Like I say, we're very complex systems. But the overall effect on the CNS is a slowdown in neurotransmission. Hence pain relief, a calming effect, and the general cannabis experience.
Does that slide suggest that the CB1 receptor is a calcium channel?
Yeah.
Okay.
When the receptor is bound, it opens up calcium channels, which cause an influx or a charge change across the cell membrane, which will introduce a whole slew of effects in the cell.
Isn't that true of the opiates too?
Sorry?
Isn't that true of the opiate drugs too?
Yes.
That they are calcium
same
channel
principle. What's unusual about the CB1 receptor on a nerve cell is it's located, like I said, on the presynaptic part of the nerve junction. Most receptors are released from the postsynaptic junction, so it's called retrograde signaling. It's backwards from normal neurotransmission. The endocannabinoids, I believe that the discovery of this system was probably the biggest medical find of the last century, or at least one of them, right next to DNA and insulin. Because the endocannabinoids affect our body's homeostasis, its regulatory balance, that's why it's such an important system. It affects really every part of our living being. And like I said, the receptor is very abundant. It's 10 times more abundant than the opiate receptors. I was going to say cool, but what's interesting about cannabinoids is they overlap with the opiate system. So as cannabis brings about pain relief and opiates bring about pain relief, the two together will act synergistically and bring about even better pain relief. Oh, and interestingly, the CB1 receptor is not that abundant in the brainstem that controls the respiratory and cardiac functions, hence no deaths due to cannabis.
Deaths due to what? Like she coughed at the same time.
No deaths due to cannabis. Doesn't stop your breathing either. But it can scare the living bejesus out of you if you overdose. And most commonly overdose occurs with people eating an unstandardized brownie. How much THC is there? You eat it, there's no turning back, and then you're off to the pinhole. The overdose on THC can be an extremely frightening experience. You get the fear, paranoid, I got to get out of here, and you don't want to repeat it. A lot of people that hear oral cannabis have done that, and then that turns them off another oral experience, which is too bad. And the reason that I've been focusing a lot on standardization of oral cannabis for the past few years. We've come up with what we call cannacaps, which are standardized, quality controlled herbal medicine. Each cannacap will contain a known amount of THC. We find these very useful for people with chronic pain, particularly. With chronic pain, oral dosing, we believe, is best because with smoking you tend to cycle through your day. You'll get pain relief here, not here, here, not here. Whereas an oral dose, you'll tend to plateau for 4 to 6 hours and get pain relief that way. And I recommend smoking for chronic pain, for breakthrough pain. We've done a couple of case studies in the past few years. I've got some copies here for people who are interested. Case studies are one person, one ailment, one medication. We did one on chronic pain.